There you go. For some reason, the camera stopped working. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to Torah with your host, Rabbi Anibal. Great to have you all here. Let's see. Welcome, Brenda. Welcome, Ashira. Welcome, David. And let's see who else is around. If you are there, if you have access to the chat, please say hello. I would like to welcome you officially to the class. And yeah, I hope you have also your coffee here. I'm ready. Look, new cup. This was graciously sent to me by Shelly Chochinov. These are cappuccino cups. A little smaller. I have to learn how to. The proportions for the cappuccino is different. It's different from the others, but it's still very cool. Welcome, Angela Daniel. Shalom. Anastasia, welcome to the class. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, let's give a couple more minutes for everyone to tune in, to relax, as before we start talking about the parsha for this week, which is parsha Nasso. Nasso is the yeah, it's a parsha. Lots of numbers on this one, lots of counting. That's what Nasso means count. But there is something I want to share with you that the last week's bar mitzvah, he was talking about that on his speech and his Torah. And oh, here, I will say to you in a minute what, yeah, Shira, is they are very nice cups. They are different. They are different. But this is only for people who like to put milk or cream on their coffee. It's not like you that you like it black. David, is the smoke bad in Winnipeg today? Yes, it is. I can smell it inside the building, and we have the latest technology filters here at the new Shari Zedek, and you can still feel it. I have a little bit of a light headache, and yeah, it's pretty bad. And I know they have a number to, let's see what is the risk today. What my phone is going to say, but I don't know how accurate. Yeah, um, the number is 9. 9, which it means high risk. High risk. And then there is very high. I don't even want to think. Very high is 11 or more. Today we are at 9, which is, I think it's been the worst so far, 9. Before today, the highest number I remember seeing was 8. Yeah, smoke for the fires. But it's like an every year thing. I don't remember that before, but now we are having an every year, and it's coming sooner and sooner into the season. So it's really bad. Welcome, Priscilla. Welcome to the class. And if there is anybody else there, oh, 2 days ago was 11. I missed that one. I missed the 11 one, but the headaches are like every day now. Every day now. There is nothing to do. I guess it's better to stay inside, especially in a building like Shari Zedek, that we have everything is filtered with very fancy filters. And at home, we have the regular filter for the furnace plus external filters as well. Yeah. So, okay, it's time to study with today class. And what I wanted to say is about Parshat Nasso, this section from the book of Numbers. And it's very interesting because Nasso is the longest parsha of the Torah. Do you know that? Nasso is the longest parsha of the Torah, and it has 176 verses. 176. Now, it's interesting because the longest chapter of the book of Psalms is Psalm 119, and it also has 176 verses. Imagine this, one psalm, 176 verses, and the longest tractate in the Talmud has 176 pages. Actually, they call it folios because the pages in the Talmud is A and B. So the longest tractate has 176 double pages. So, and that's why the rabbis call this parsha Psalm 119 and the longest tractate of the Talmud. They call it the Big Three. The Big Three, and yeah, it's the longest parsha. And it's also interesting that the longest parsha of the Torah, the name is count, Nasso, count. So I guess, yes, you have to count to realize that we have 176 verses in this week's parsha. So it's long, but it's very repetitious. The reason why it's so long is because we have the repetition of all the 12 leaders of the tribes that they presented offerings at the inauguration of the tabernacle. So it's the same paragraph repeated 12 times. The only difference is it changes the name, the number of the day, and the name of the leader. Everything else is the same. So if you're a bar mitzvah, you happen to have this parsha, the first reaction will say, no, no way, I want my parents to change it, this is too long. But then once you start going through it, you will realize, oh, well, maybe it's not so bad because you learn one paragraph and then you can read a lot of it. And then you can impress your guests with very little work. So I have students that they had to do Nasso and they had the first shock, and then it is the relief when they realized how repetitious this is. But I didn't want to talk to you about that specifically today because there are many different topics on this parsha. One of the most famous one is that we are going to read Birkat Kohanim, also known as the Aharonic blessing or the priestly blessing, which is the famous Yevarechecha that we say in the synagogue. May God bless you and keep you. You probably heard that blessing. And is the blessing in the Torah. Is the one that God said to Moses, go tell Aaron and his sons, this is the way you're going to bless the people of Israel. Yevarechecha Adonai b'shmerecha, Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. These are the blessing, which make this parsha also one of the most famous one because it contains one of the most famous paragraphs in Jewish liturgy. This is part of every service. It's part of the Amida, this section that is found in this week parsha. So I wanted to start the class a little bit going through this special blessing that we use to bless people. We bless our Bnei Bnot Mitzvah with this. We supposedly bless our children every Shabbat and festival with this blessing, and so forth. It's a text that is very special in the Jewish tradition. And let me tell you something. It was interesting because I don't have the chance to read this section from the actual Torah, from the scroll, all the time, because that's not my main role here at the Shaarei Zedek, to read Torah. But today at 10 a.m., Central Time, in case you're tuning in from somewhere else. At 10 a.m., I had the opportunity to give a tour to a high school. It's called the Landmark Collegiate, that they came to visit the Shaarei Zedek. And I explained to them about the synagogue, about the liturgy, what is the Torah, what is the Talmud, blah, blah, blah. And then one of the students said, can I see the Torah? Of course you can see the Torah. So I opened the ark, I got the Torah out of the ark, I opened it on the table, and they were standing around it. And what was in front of them, this section, because this is the parsha of the week, and the Torah is already prepared for Saturday, just set right exactly on Birkat Kohanim, on the priestly blessing. So I had the opportunity to read it for them and explain for them a little bit what it's all about. Right? So this is what I wanted to share with you at the beginning of the class. So let's begin. But before that, I have other topic that I wanted to say before we go into the Birkat Kohanim. I forgot about this one. This is one of my favorite sections because it's not every day that you can find a teaching in the Torah that is so contemporary like this one. It's a very contemporary teaching that we have here, and I will go fast about this. We studied this before in connection with a different section, but you will see what I'm talking about. Let me read it. It's talking about the three families of the tribe of Levite and what they have to do in order to help the priests. Because remember, the priests are the Kohanim, descendants of Aaron, Moses' brother. They were Levites originally. But then God decided that Aaron, even though he was a Levite, he was going to be a Kohen, which is a priest. And then all the children of Aaron will also be Levites, but they're not really Levite anymore. They are Kohanim, priests. Okay? And this is something that continued even to this day. We kept track through history to know who is a Kohen and who is a Levi, who is coming from from Aaron, from the priest, and who is coming from Levites, from the tribe of Levi. So the priests were the ones that were going to work in the temple doing the sacrifices. That was specifically for the priests, for the Kohanim. But the Levites also had the obligation to work in the temple, but assisting to the priest and doing other tasks related to the temple that they were not sacrificing animals. Okay, so one of the things that the Levite has to do was, at the time that we didn't have the temple in Jerusalem yet, was to move the tabernacle from one place to the next. Was a holy task, was a big honor, and it was given to the Levites. Originally it was given to the firstborns. So every family, with every firstborn, you will have to go to work in the temple. But because of the sin of the golden calf, that was taken away from the firstborn and given to the Levites. And that's why in this day and age, if you have a son, if your firstborn is a son, then even in these days we have to do a ceremony that is called Pidyon Haben, which is the redemption of the firstborn, because the Torah said there is still the obligation for the firstborn to work in the temple, but you can redeem the firstborn by giving a certain amount of money to the priest, and there is a ceremony that is done with five silver coins that you can actually buy online from a Judaica, and then do this ceremony. You can get any Kohen you want, and there is a text that you do, something that has to be read, and that's it. And I mentioned this because this tour that we have at the synagogue today, as they were waiting for me at the lobby, we have a beautiful display at the lobby with different antique Judaicas. And one of the things that they were there were this set with the 5 silver coins. And they asked me, what is that? And I had the opportunity to teach to them and to explain what is the Pidyon Haben. And I was telling them that most Jewish people don't know what a Pidyon Haben is. So I was saying how lucky you are that now that you thought you were coming to visit a synagogue, but you go home now knowing what Pidyon Haben is, and you had a chance to see the coins that they are used for this ceremony. So that is for Pidyon Haben. Now, what the Levites had to do, listen to this. The Torah says, Zot avodah mishpechot Gershuni. The Gershon families are to be responsible for serving and for transporting loads. Okay? They are to carry the curtains of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, its covering, the fine leather covering above it, the screens for the entrance to the tent of the meeting, etc., etc., etc. So the family of Gershon will have the obligation to take the walls. Okay? So there were the walls, there were the columns, there were some of the vessels that they were used for the service, right, that the priest will need to use for the service. But as for the transportation, that was not up to the priest, it was up to the Levites. And within the Levites, there were the 3 families. It was Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. Again, Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. And each one of the 3 families will have 3 very specific tasks to fulfill, right? So Gershon will have to transport the curtains and the walls and things, so they will not they were not allowed to transport, for example, the vessels and so forth. It was not interchangeable. Every family will have a very specific thing. Ha! Shelly Chochinov is here. Look, Shelly. Thank you so much. Here it is. The cappuccino cup. Beautiful gift. Thank you so much. I'm just having a cappuccino. Uh, your honor. Delicious. Okay, so this is the Gershoni. So let's go to the next one, and let me show you. Okay, so I remember the three families: Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. Okay, so it says here, in order to transport all things, God commanded Moses to give them certain elements to help them in the task. Okay, so it says 2 carts and 4 oxen he gave to the Gershonites. Okay, again, 2 carts and 4 animals to help them to move things because they were heavy, heavy things as required for their service. And 4 carts and 8 oxen he gave to the Merarites as required for their service because they have things that they were even heavier than the things that the Gershonites have to transport. Okay, under the direction of Itamar, the son of Aaron the priest. Of course, the priests were coordinating things, not doing the heavy lifting, but coordinating. But to the Kehatites, to the family of Kehat, he did not give any. And the things were the heaviest for Kehat. Why? Since the duties involved the holy articles, which they had to carry on their own shoulders. Why do I say that this is one of my favorite teachings and it's so contemporary? Because it's talking about, and I will say this, to me this is very straightforward. It's talking about that there are, and the Torah is teaching us, that there are certain things that you can delegate and some things that you cannot delegate. Is that clear? Just like that. Certain things you can delegate, and another things you have to carry them over your shoulders. And I believe this is a beautiful, beautiful teaching for, or a beautiful lesson in parenting. Beautiful lesson in parenting. That there are certain things, for example, when you are talking about the education of your children, certain things you can delegate to school. But look what it says there. It said the holy things, you have to carry in your shoulder. You cannot delegate that. The ethics, morals. Don't expect that school will teach that to your children. That is up to you. Oh, but it's so difficult, Rabbi. It's so heavy. Look at that. It says there. It doesn't mean that the Kohatites, they have to carry some of the heaviest things, the menorah and all the things, but it doesn't matter. They were so holy that you cannot put it in a cart and make an ox and like an animal to carry it. You have to carry it on your shoulder. That's why I said it's beautiful teaching. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful teaching. And okay, so any questions about this, any comment, I would love to read it in the chat. You know how it works. If you have any comments other than coffee and weather, you can type it in the chat. I will read it and we can discuss about that, about the parsha. So, yeah, parents there, remember, there are things that you cannot delegate. And the same thing goes for our own lives, right? There are certain things that you can delegate, so other things you have to do it yourself. Otherwise, nobody will do it because they are too important. Let's continue. Okay, here we go into what I was telling you at the beginning of the class, the Birkat Kohanim. And it's this special blessing that we use every week to bless our children at the Shabbat table. But it's also part of the Amidah. every day in the service. It's only recited in the middle when we do a full repetition of the middle, which unfortunately we don't do it in most conservative synagogue anymore. We do what is called an Echa Kedusha. It means up to the Kedusha. We sing out loud the first three blessings, and then we continue silently. So we really don't have the opportunity to sing out loud the Birkat Kohanim, right? We do say it whenever we have a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, the parents will bless them with these words. So let me read it for you, and then we can talk about the holy words of the Birkat Kohanim, the blessing of the priests. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to Aaron and his sons. Thus shall you bless the people of Israel. Say to them, the Lord bless you and protect you. The Lord deal kindly and graciously with you. The Lord bestow his favor upon you and grant you peace. Thus they shall link my name with the people of Israel, and I will bless them." And it's a beautiful prayer that is recited by both Jews and Christians, because such powerful words, and it expresses so beautifully what a blessing is. And I will tell you one of the things that it always it piqued my curiosity. Let's put it this way. Why would the first one, for example, says, "The Lord bless you and protect you"? Why the double here? Bless you and protect you. And I was always thinking, is it necessary to add the "and protect you"? Isn't it enough to say, "May God bless you"? Why the "protect you"? Do you have any idea? I'm asking to all of you. If you have any idea, please type it in the chat. Why do you think the blessing contains both words, bless you and protect you? I would like to hear your theories. This also gives me the opportunity to have a little bit more coffee. No clue? No clue? Okay, keep that thought in mind, okay, as we read the next text. Because here is what the rabbis say about the bless you and protect you. Look, it is not enough to get a blessing from Hashem, from God. It's not enough. Not enough. It must be given with the assurance that it will have a practical implication. Many people receive blessings of wealth and health only to lose them to thieves and aggravation. Each of the priestly blessings is followed by a safeguard, a follow-up. A blessing of wealth alone is not enough. Hashem must guard it. Illuminating us with his countenance is not enough, unless fellow humans appreciate the grace that God has given the Jews. In this very corporeal world, it is without the appreciation, it's a worthless gift. And of course, even if he lifts his countenance upon us, we still need the blessing of shalom, of peace. And that is a very interesting thing, that the whole blessing ends with the word shalom. Because if there is something, it's so true, that doesn't matter how much material blessing you have. If we don't have peace, we cannot enjoy our blessings. That's why we pray for peace all the time. During the weekday services, the central prayer, the Amidah, contains 19 blessings. So out of the 19 blessings, we have the first three and the last three are three blessings of introduction. The last three is when we say farewell to God, but the 13 in between are petitions. We ask God things we need or we want. 13 blessings. On Shabbat, and on festivals, the 13 blessings of petitions get replaced for one blessing of sanctification of the day. Why is that? Because the rabbis say that on Shabbat and on festival there is no petition. Why so? Because when you ask for what you don't have, you remember what you don't have, and that is an impediment for enjoying the day, for celebrating the day, because now you're worried about what you don't have. So there is no petition on Shabbat or on festivals, except for peace. And later on, it was incorporated, not in the Amida, but in different part of the service, prayer for healing as well, because those are the two things that they don't let you fully enjoy your blessings: lack of peace and lack of health. But especially the peace, especially the peace, we have the exception. We are allowed to pray for peace, to petition for peace, even during Shabbat and festival, because it encapsulates everything. And that's why this blessing will finish with the prayer for peace, because he said, you know what, God, if you cannot give me peace, everything else that you may give me as a blessing, I cannot enjoy it. Okay? So back to the beginning, where he said, may God bless you and keep you, or may God bless you and protect you. That's life. That's life. Because a blessing is a blessing if it can be protected. You know, you may win the lottery, millions of dollars, and you will say, oh, thank you, God, for the blessing. But if you don't have the health to enjoy that, then it's not really a blessing. Or if that money will ruin your marriage, is that a blessing? It's not. And so forth. So it's not just for me to feel the blessing, but protect. But protect what I already have. That's the thing. Let this new blessing be added to what I have, not to ruin what I have. And that's why Rabbi Kamenetsky will say this is true for each one of the three statements of the Birkat Kohanim. Don't let the blessing ruin what you already have. So that's why there is how this rabbi said, let me say it here, safeguard, he called it. There is always a safeguard that the blessing is actually going to be a long-lasting blessing. Brenda, you said, I don't think that bless covers everything. Protection is a separate act. Yeah, okay. Maybe they are two different things. But that's the way I read it. I have one more thing to share with you about this from a different rabbi. Listen to this. All of the priestly blessings are phrased in the singular. They are addressed to each individual separately. How then can the last blessing speak of peace? Isn't peace a collective concept? Peace between nations, peace between neighbors, etc. Now, he explains, a Jew is commanded to love God with all his heart and with all his soul. But man has other interests, and his organs are at war with each other. Some want to love and serve God, while others may not. How can man win this war? Our sages teach that one who wants to purify himself receives divine assistance. This is the meaning of the blessing that the Kohanim uttered. May God establish peace for you. That means within you. So this is a different aspect of peace. It's not just the peace between people, but a peace within yourself as well, which, by the way, sometimes is as difficult to achieve as peace between nations. We believe that sometimes we have peace with ourselves is easier. Not always. Not always. I know people that they live, they have a tormented internal reality, despite maybe having peace around them, because they live in a peaceful country. It might be, lack of peace in the world, but what they live is a peaceful place. But still, they are not at peace with themselves. And that is very common. I'm saying, by living here in Canada, of course, we all have problems and things that we don't like, but there is peace. It's a peaceful place. And yet, sometimes it's difficult to get the internal peace. That's why that last word, shalom, shalom is a comprehensive peace with many different layers. And that's why also shalom is the root of the word shalom is also shalem, which means completeness. It's a complete peace, not just external but internal as well. Shelley used peace is a duality, internal and external. Yep, yeah, that's exactly what the rabbis are saying, the two aspects of peace. Any other comment before we move on to the next topic? Okay, so let's continue with the next one. Let's move on with this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful parsha. Now, the other thing that this parsha is mentioning is about the donations to the tabernacle. Okay, because this parsha also talks a lot about the inauguration of the tabernacle and the offerings that were presented from the different tribes and all that. This is also a separate topic, and it's a beautiful one in the sense that this parsha reminds us how everybody is special, everybody is loved equally by God, and that's why you have the repetition of the 12 sections of the Torah to honor each one of the 12 leaders of the tribes of Israel, to explain, that each one was equally special to God. So sometimes when you are down thinking that, you are nothing in this world, this is a beautiful parsha to read, to remember that God is looking at us not as numbers, but as names. Sometimes we forget this because all at least the beginning of the book of Numbers is census. Count here, count there, give me the number, final count, and that. When you are in the middle of accounting, you feel that you are invisible, but then you have parshiot like Nasso, when you have individual recognition of people. It's a reminder of how special we are for God. Okay, but the other things that this parsha is talking about is all these offerings that they were presented to the tabernacle. Okay, the word for offering is called the terumah. The terumah. They were all this portion, but as a donations that they were made in those days. The donations we still have it in these days. It's a way that we make donations to the synagogues. We don't have the temple anymore, but it serves the same purpose. Having an opportunity to give something back to God, because it's a recognition that everything we have is coming from God. So listen to this, because it's extremely important, and you can catch this only by understanding Hebrew grammar, and I will explain. I will read it in Hebrew first, then I will translate it. It says, "V'chol terumah lechol kodshei bnei Yisrael asher יקרבו לכהן לא יהיה, ואיש את קודשיו לא יהיו, איש אשר ייתן לכהן לא יהיה." This word lo, of course, it sounds like, if you know a little bit of Hebrew, lo means no. Ken means yes, lo means no, but it's a different spelling. That one is lamed aleph. This is lamed vav. Lo means his. His, in English, H-I-S, his, lo. So, and in English kind of works the same way, the way this translation was written. Listen to this. "And every portion from any of the holies that the children of Israel bring to the Kohen shall be his. A man's holy shall be his, and what a man gives to the Kohen shall be his." So, the interesting thing about the verse is it's not clear who the subject is. When it said shall be his, shall be who? The donor or the Kohen? The donor or the priest? Who is the his? Right? In Hebrew it's the same. Like it said, everything you give to the Kohen, lo yeh. It will belong to him. But to him, to who? To the Kohen or to the donor? Well, you will say, of course, it's to the Kohen because the donor is the one giving it. Right now, the Kohen is the one receiving it. So you don't need to know Hebrew or English to understand that is the subject here is the recipient. But the rabbi said, no so fast. No so fast. Because these verses were written in this interesting and cryptic way to imply that his, or in Hebrew, that law could be both of them. So could be either of them. Either of them. Could be the donor or the receiver. And in a way, the subject who is getting this donation, the subject is both the donor and the Kohen in a different way. Listen to this. Let me read the story and you will understand. The following story is told about Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon, very famous rabbi. If you read Pirkei Avot, his teachings are all over Pirkei Avot, his moral teachings. He was very wealthy, but was not in the habit of giving substantially to the poor. Like many rich people that we know in these days, right? That they're billionaires, but some of them are very charitable. People like Bill Gates, for example, or Buffett, that they are famous for their philanthropic endeavors, that they give a big chunk of their fortunes to other people, but there are some others that they don't. And they're billionaires. Anyway, so it looks at Rabbi Tarfon was one of those, and it's interesting because he was a rabbi, but he wasn't very generous with his fortune. One time, Rabbi Akiva said to him, and I guess Rabbi Akiva noticed Rabbi Tarfon's habits and wanted to teach him a lesson, but here we come into a mitzvah in Judaism that is called tochecha, which is giving rebuke. Okay? Rabbi Akiva noticed that Rabbi Tarfon should be more generous, but he wasn't. So Rabbi Akiva wanted to fulfill the mitzvah of tochecha, of rebuke, by letting Rabbi Tarfon know that he was wrong. Okay, it's a mitzvah, but also the Talmud says is you should rebuke your fellow only if you know how to do it in a way that is not going to backfire. What does it mean? And we all know this. I don't know if you ever tried to tell somebody else, hey, I think you're wrong. How did that go? Usually not so good, right? At least you're going to be met with a, dude, mind your own business, right? Am I right? That's what happened. That's why the Talmud said, be careful with rebuke, because most of the time it doesn't work. And then it lists 3 reasons why it doesn't work. It said, we don't know how to give rebuke anymore. We don't know how to listen to rebuke anymore. So it's a combination of factors. And the other thing is, we don't have the moral stature to give rebuke anymore. In the sense that you will tell somebody else, hey, I think you are wrong, and the person is going to tell you, who do you think you are? And most of the time, the person is right. Who do you think you are? It's like, you never did this before, so you are trying to correct me, but you are so sane that you don't do it. It's very difficult to give rebuke, so the Talmud said, don't do it. But Rabbi Akiva, who was the one actually who said, be careful, you should not give rebuke. Rabbi Akiva, it looks like he was good at it. He was an artist in the art of rebuking people. So listen what he said to Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Akiva said, would you like me to be your agent in buying a town or two? Right? It said to him, Rabbi Tarfon, do you want me to multiply your money? You know, getting into an amazing real estate business? Of course, right? Certainly, replied Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon then brought 4,000 gold dinars, which Rabbi Akiva took and distributed to the poor. So, in other words, he didn't buy any real estate. Sometime later, Rabbi Tarfon sought out Rabbi Akiva and said to him, where are the towns that you bought for me? Rabbi Akiva took him by the hand and brought him to the Beit Midrash, the house of study, and brought over a child with the book of Psalms in his hand. The child read Psalm 112. Happy is the one who fears the Lord, who is devoted to his commandment. Until he got to the verse, he gives freely to the poor. His tzedakah lasts forever. His horn is exalted in honor. Rabbi Akiva said, this is the property which I bought for you. Rabbi Tarfon hugged Rabbi Akiva and said, you are my teacher and my leader. You are my teacher in wisdom and my leader in derech eretz, proper conduct. We're going to study about derech eretz in a minute, okay? What is derech eretz? Then Rabbi Tarfon started to give more money to the poor, okay? So this is the thing with when you donate money. When you donate money, the recipient of your tzedakah gets something, okay? Get the money. But at the same time, you get the benefits of the results of that mitzvah. You understand? Because many times when we help others, we have no idea what they are going to become, on what great things they're going to do. And especially this is very common when, for example, and I've seen it many times, and it's a topic that once in a while comes out in TV series or in movies, when you will see people paying for somebody else's educations. Have you ever seen that? And then the recipient of that money eventually go and do great things after graduating and inventing something or saving lives or who knows what. So it's it's a beautiful thing. So the rabbis say that when you give tzedakah and you help somebody and that person go and does something great in the future, the reward for those actions, they are going to be written in your account as well, because you were part of that mitzvah for the charity that you gave before. So it's a very, very beautiful thing. And I was just, I saw the other day on I think it was on Facebook, one of these stories that come to my feed, of this case of a person that was like a person that looked like a beggar, that it came to a barber, and he said, I need a haircut, right? And said, but I don't have money. I said, don't worry. The barber cut his hair, shaved his beard, and I said, why do you want the haircut? And he said, well, I have a job interview. I said, but you can't go to a job interview like that, looking like that. I said, go to the back, take a shower, and I will give you some clothes that you can go. And the beggar said, I this is all the money I have. I have like $2-3. I said, I don't want your money. Just I want to be sure you're okay. Go to your interview and think. And then he didn't know anything about this person ever again. The person that he helped, but then this guy looks like he eventually became like a real estate mogul and a millionaire. And eventually, what he did is because the And the barber said to him, "I don't want your money." I gave him a little card and said, "Pay it forward." So one day, you will have an opportunity to help somebody else. So just help somebody else whenever. I don't want you to pay me back or anything. But eventually, this other guy became a millionaire, and one day he went back and bought the property that the barber was renting, and showed up and gave him the key and said, "This is yours now." And it's amazing. You never know what differences we can create in the world when we are generous with other people. It's a beautiful thing. So good for Rabbi Akiva. He was able to rebuke Rabbi Tarfon in a loving way, and good for Rabbi Tarfon that he learned the lesson and he started to give more to others. And that's why when the parsha, let me read it again, what it says, "And every portion from any of the holies that the children of Israel bring to the Kohen shall be his." It will belong to the Kohen, physically to the Kohen, but also the spiritual impact also belongs to the giver, and it's a wonderful thing. So let's talk a little bit. Remember, I mentioned about derech eretz, the proper way. Derech eretz is what is expected from us, and it's very important for us to understand that this is also a Jewish concept. It's called derech eretz. It translates as the way of the land, but it involves not just being polite, but also becoming a great individual in society. That's what it is. So listen to this. Derech eretz includes everything that flows from the human being's necessity to perfect his destiny and his life, together with his society, through the medium of the earth bounty. So you see, it's a twofold thing, derech eretz. Becoming better yourself, but in the process, making a better world. So you should not sacrifice one for the benefit of the other. Understand, this is brilliant. You should not sacrifice one for the benefit of the other. It's you and the world at the same time. Hence, the term is used in reference to earning a livelihood and establishing civic order, and in reference to the path of discipline with manners and refinement that social life require, and to everything that touches upon the development of humankind and civility. And this is very important. It's not about just becoming better people, but how we become better people. Okay? Sometimes people, you can become better, but at the expense of somebody else or the world. That's why in this day and age, we talk a lot about this, about how to progress as a society, and at the same time to take care of the world and the environment and everything. It should be the two things together, and you can see that it's part of rabbinic Judaism. It's a huge mitzvah to do it in that way. So Pirkei Avot will talk a little bit about that. Listen to this. Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Judah Anasi, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, said, "Excellent is the study of the Torah when combined with a worldly occupation, for toil in them both keeps sin out of one's mind. But study of the Torah, which is not combined with a worldly occupation, in the end comes to be neglected and becomes the cause of sin. And all who labor with the community should labor with them for the sake of heaven, for the merit of their forefathers sustains the community, and the forefathers' righteousness endures forever. And as for you, God in such case says, I credit you with a rich reward, as if you yourself had actually accomplished it all." You see what I said? I will give you the rewards of when you do the well and you affect other people's life positively, that at the end, whatever good actions come as a reaction of your good action will be accredited to you. But the first part is something I want to talk to you, that it was very common in Judaism, and I think in this day was misunderstood, or because we all know people in this day and age that they do all day long is to study for the sake of studying. And I don't want to get into the debate here, but we all know that this is a reality, especially in Israel. You will hear all this in the news all the times. If they should be supported by the states and by the taxpayers or not. People that they just dedicate their lives to study Torah and not work and not do anything, not even teaching, just for the sake of studying. But then on the other side, I say, well, we need people that just study to preserve Judaism. So if somebody in the future wants to learn more about Judaism, these people should be there. But clearly, Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Gamliel was against that model. Rabbi Gamliel said, no, we have to be able to study Torah and to work at the same time. Both are necessary to create, let's say, the perfect Jew. The perfect Jew studies and the perfect Jew works at the same time. So it's not just that you make you make an impact to your intellect and your soul by studying Torah, coming to synagogue, but also you make an impact to the world. It's part of our purpose. We come here to leave our mark in the world, and that it cannot be achieved just being, within four walls studying all day. And that is what Rabbi Gamliel is saying, and this is also part of the concept of derech eretz. That is extremely important for us to study, but it's also important for us to develop by studying. You develop your skills, but then it's time to apply those skills, to bring those skills to the world, because you become part of what we call tikkun olam, the repair of the world. Well, yeah, Shelley, you said service on the IDF, for example. Yeah, in Israel, that some people said, nope, I should not serve the IDF because my purpose is to study and to study only. And that's why I said, I don't want to get into this debate, but it's a huge thing in Israel in this day, this discussion. Now, let's go to the Midrash. Vayikra Rabbah will say, Rabbi Ishmael, son of Rabbi Nachman, said, Derech Eretz preceded Torah by 26 generations. This is the meaning of what is written, to guard the way of the tree of life. The way refers to Derech Eretz. Afterwards says the tree of life, which is Torah. So in other words, and this is something that I mentioned it when we study about counting of the Omer, right? Right after Pesach, we have to count the Omer to refine our ethics and our morals in order to become proper vessels for the Torah. In the sense that the Derech Eretz, as being good people, productive people in an ethical way for society, it says it says preceded Torah in the sense that please don't tell me that God needs to reveal the Torah for you to believe that you have to be a good person. Really? Are you really that kind of person that you believe that, without the Torah you wouldn't know that you have to be a good person to society? So Vayikra Rabbah, what it's saying is the ability of being a good person is already in you, with or without Torah. You get that? We already come to this world with the ability, with the potential of being a good person. And then when you unlock that potential, then the Torah will take you to the next level. But it's not the but it's not the other way around. Shelley, you said, let's see what you said, Shelley. You said, I grew up with understanding in Yiddish that Derech Eretz was in another place than here. No, never heard that. Never heard that expression. Sorry. But yeah. So, okay. So thank you everyone for tuning in this Thursday afternoon. Remember, I believe we have just a couple more weeks. Let me double check my calendar. Yeah, we have the 12th and the 19th of June, and then we enter into the summer hiatus until right before the high holidays. So uh, you can still go to our archive if you are missing us too much, so much, and you can go to our archive and study and replay old classes from Torah L'Chaim. But yes, we have 2 more weeks of Torah study. And thank you so much for uh, tuning in for this class, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Remember, this class is going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. Please be safe, and hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.